We're going to start with a story about HDZero.
Yeah.
HDZero goggles. The pre-order has been announced. The price, specs, details. Where should we start, Blunty?
Yeah. So let's just talk about. So we've talked a lot about HDZero goggles in the past and why they're exciting and all that kind of stuff. And we finally got the announcement that we were waiting on, which is a listing of the goggles. We finally got a hey, this stuff is done. Here's our plan. Here's where we're going with stuff, and here's what's happening. So basically, what's going to happen is from what I heard, there's 100 sets of beta goggles. That'll be a 25% discount for testers. That will happen for invites, basically. That'll be invites only. And then everybody else will be offered this pre-order, and then goggles will be shipping hopefully before Christmas is the goal of the final goggle.
Wow.
So a lot of different things we know about these goggles. Obviously, these are going to be 1080p OLED, 90 hertz display. There's going to be 90 hertz cameras, which we've already seen in testing for these, so you can get faster frame rate, which means lower latency. You just get 540p instead. There's also 1080p 30 options for this. We've got all kinds of different things too, like the interlacing. Right, there's a new what is it? Basically, it removes the image vertical jitter by combining the fields better, and then you get better diagonal line resolution as well. So.
We looked at this yesterday on the on my live stream. We looked at Ryan Quellett's video, and I was I kind of knew what to expect because I'm vaguely familiar with the concept of interlacing, but just looking at the comparison of the footage, I was kind of shocked at how much better the analog footage looked from the HDZero goggles. The proper deinterlacing basically increases the usable resolution of the image. It's not just that there's a little less stair stepping on diagonal lines. It was so much better, and was really impressed. And was smoother in motion too. Although you only really saw it when you slow it down, but it's still there even when you're going fast.
It seems like the only downside is that we're working with past stuff, so you get OSD jitter because the OSD chip is expecting to have that movement or whatever is happening. So,
and does the OSD chip try to compensate for that?
Yeah, I think what's happening is it knows it's supposed to compensate for where it normally is, but because we don't have the jitter, it creates jitter in the OSD. That's my basic understanding.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That might be fixed at some point in the future with better OSD chips, or maybe even HDZero will do some kind of onboard implementation for the next solution, but like they did with the interlacer, right? So
yeah, I mean, Betaflight could, I suppose, if they wanted to. I don't know if that's true.
I don't think you. I mean, does the Max chip? I mean, maybe you can.
But... Is the Max chip itself handling the up down of the? Oh. No,
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's like doing all the translations into signals, right? You're just sending data to the chip, and it's handling that. So
yeah. So these goggles, one of the things people noticed was that the goggles are coming in at $600, which many people feel is a completely fair price, given what the goggles bring to the table. Other people were hoping they'd be less expensive and sort of like a goggle for the masses. $600. You get an Orca for $600. You get a DJI V2 for less than $500. Is the argument that some are making.
So if you open up that, I got a spreadsheet linked that we could check out.
I love spreadsheets. You're talking my language, Blunty.
I love spreadsheets too. So
tell me what we got.
All right. So I made I was just trying to find a way to lay this out so people could get a quick idea. What the difference is in prices, and obviously all options aren't there, and there's a bunch of nuance, but this is very quickly just a layout. So, if you look on the left, we've got analog only totals. So if you wanted to get into analog only, right, this is what you would pay with a Fusion module or with the built-in module of Skyo 4X. So
because Fusion is just as good in performance as Rapid Fire, but a little bit cheaper. So you're giving them the benefit of the doubt.
If you want to add $30, you can do that for the Rapid Fire to each of those prices. And so those are the only analog only options, and that's sort of where you pay. But then we've got also, the different spots there for anybody who cared about the other price comparisons. But the main thing is column L there, the HDZero plus analog total, right? So this is what you're going to pay if you're going to combine the two things, and you're going to want to use HDZero and analog in your goggles. And to me, this is really where it shines. Otherwise, it's still I think there's still a decent fair deal there, but I think here's where it really shines, because for 780, you're getting 1080p 90 hertz OLED with a better deinterlacer for the analog side, versus the best you're getting otherwise is Skyo 4X with its built-in module, which some people complain about with the HDZero setup.
It's not the best.
For 30 less with a lower resolution screen and 60 hertz.
Yeah.
So when you start to do comparisons, and this doesn't compare any of the other features, this doesn't compare all the other bonuses that you're going to get, doesn't compare the open source nature and support, the 3D printed parts, like all the other things, right?
Did you take into account the price of the... Jekli's asking if you took into account the price of the module bay. I assume you did.
That does include the module bay, yeah. That's why it's 780 instead of 720 is what it would be with the Fusion plus $600 goggle.
Okay, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, the module bay is an add-on that you buy for the goggles. So it's $600 for the goggles, and then you pay $60, and that's how you get that module bay accessory that snaps onto the side and lets you do analog.
Yeah. Craig FPV thinks these destroy orcas in every way.
Well, the specs certainly do.
The specs do.
If you look at price, the thing is, if you're doing only analog and you don't care about HDZero, I still think there's a world in which you would buy other goggles. But the features on these are great. So if you're willing to pay more and get a better screen and get better deinterlacing and other features, and also have HDZero in the pocket, I think that's where you start to say, like, that's where I'm going to step up to these goggles. Like, I think for analog only, it's a hard sell to say, here's the extra for something I'm not going to see on the analog part, right? Like, the 1080 is not going to matter for analog. The 90 hertz OLED isn't going to matter for analog. No. But you now have HDZero in the box that you could throw on a quad. So if you have any interest at all, like, it's a bonus.
And you could argue that if you're interested in analog, you should want the better deinterlacer, because it really does make a difference. The flip side of that to me is I might rather... You got to have the module hanging off the side of the goggle. It's a little bit... I don't know. It's a little bit weird looking, and it's a little bit harder to pack, perhaps because it's bigger. Yeah. Some people would say, I like the smooth lines of the, I don't know, the Skyo 4X or maybe the Orca. And they're going to say, I don't need the interlacer. I'm just going to get the Orca. But I would make an argument that anybody who flies analog and isn't interested in going to digital, like, I'm sorry, HDZero is also digital. I apologize. Anybody who flies analog and isn't interested in DJI or walk snail for whatever reason should absolutely be thinking hard about flying HDZero, because HDZero has almost everything good about analog, but better image quality and resolution.
Yes, I agree with that part for sure. I think, like, yes, there's a question of, like, it's really just about how much you want to pay, right? And what you're looking for in a feature set, and like where your world's going to go. Like, you are going to pay, like, if you want to get into premium analog, I think people would consider Skyo 4X V2 an option for that, and that's $530. Right? The cheapest you can get into analog with a good module for the HDZero goggle is $780. Right? So you're paying $250 more to get into analog with these goggles, and also have the HDZero.
Basically the price of the HDZero receiver. Yeah, exactly.
However, you're getting better analog deinterlacing, and you're getting 1080p 90 hertz OLED.
That's compelling.
So it's like, right, that's the thing here is, like, if there's a planet where you would buy an HDZero VRX and fly it, it probably behooves you to just spend the extra money and buy the HDZero goggles.
And my argument, and I know I'm repeating myself, but my argument is that if you fly analog, I don't think there should be many people in the world who just say, I fly analog and I'm just not interested. The minute you fly a Tiny Whoop with HDZero on it, you're like, I never want to fly an analog Tiny Whoop again. It's kind of. I don't know how many people out there are going to go 100% HDZero on all of their quads. I think that somebody who is still flying analog for various reasons, but like then has an HDZero Tiny Whoop or something, and I think that makes these really compelling.
One other thing we haven't noted, we're talking about these really good, and I appreciate through that, but we do have to note these are going to be a new piece of hardware from a company that has not made a goggle before. That's true. Like, we have to consider that there will be 100 tests out there. There are people who got a 25% discount, but will still pay money for the goggles. And so I think we'll get pretty good results from those 100 people getting them, and we'll find out. They're invite only, but they should be at least still people who are, they spent their money on the goggles. So we'll see what they see.
We got a couple comments here I want to acknowledge. Johnny 5, by the way, good to have you here, Johnny 5, asks, will it be possible to add improved deinterlacing to other goggles? Is that a hardware thing that's built in, or is it software?
I think my understanding is it's in, like, the display driver. So it's like in the actual, like, you would have to replace the display panel setup of the goggle. So I don't know
So
what
no,
feasibility that would be.
we're not going to get a firmware update to the Orcas that.
I don't think you're going to get. You're definitely not going to get a firmware update. If you could get it in like some piece of hardware you would buy that you could like exchange by opening your goggles, maybe. But like that's the only extent you're going to get, because the whole problem here is that everybody's using the same deinterlacing chip, and that's the one that's not great. And HDZero is just using their own. They're made their own emulated version of that, which fixes all the problems. So
Carl Zhao, man. It's like he's just like this thing sucks. I'm just gonna make my own.
Yes,
that's crazy.
That's the benefit of HDZero. I mean, that's the benefit of having Carl, is he just fixes it. He's just like, this is a problem. Here's the solution. Let's do it. And it's great.
There was another question that I wanted to acknowledge, which is I can't find it. Shoot. One more second. Nope, I've lost it. Oh, well.
Also, one other thing we should mention is just that, like, maybe you want to flip back to the chart real quick.
Yeah.
And while we're covering the comparisons, it is just worth considering that, like, if you like smaller box analog in the laggy DJI goggles, you can do that for $610, and you get DJI. DJI is $429 right now, and Dominator is $600. And once Dominator gets a VRX, I think Shark Bike or the HDZero goggles will be even more appealing.
That was the other comment. Yes.
Yeah, once you have a VRX and something else to plug into the HDMI that the HDZero goggles have, then suddenly there's even more benefit to, now I've got 90 hertz 1080p for the Walksnail link that I have plugged into the thing, and that only costs me $250, which currently no other goggle will be able to do. Right? There's no comparison, because Dominators can't. There's no HDMI in the Dominators, so there will be no other solution for that, and it will be the best one by far. So,
right. Yeah, that was it. The Walksnail module that Walksnail says they're working on, that will further cement, because that'll give you DJI style Walksnail, variable latency through the HDMI input. It'll give you HDZero fixed latency built in and analog. This will be the Swiss Army knife. The only thing it won't do is actual DJI.
Yeah.
Which is going to be mighty tempting. I think that could boost Walksnail sales.
It'll depend on where price of the Walksnail VRX comes in, but if they could land it at like 220, 230, 250, for $1,000, you could have, like you said, variable latency digital. You could have fixed latency digital and analog and cover all the bases and fly everything you would want with one set of goggles, which is pretty appealing.
Very tempting. Very tempting.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a funny world if this goggle outsold the HDZero VTXs? If people were like, this is a great goggle, I'm going to take it.
I can definitely see that happening. I mean, well, it depends on how you look at it, right? Because VTXs are going to be multiple purchases and stuff. But I could see there being a huge portion of people who own these who do not buy a VTX for a while. Yeah. Right? Who just buy these and have the HDZero set up in there, and they want the nice goggles and they've got the best thing, and then they can plug in the Walksnail VRX when it comes, and
you could fly HDZero on your tiny whoops, because HDZero really excels at the lightweight VTXs. You could fly Walksnail on your 5 inches, and you could fly high power analog on your long range birds, all in one set of goggles.
Absolutely. That's
pretty cool. Okay. Well, looking forward to seeing more about that.
Yeah.
As time goes on.
So real quick, just again, still hoping for the release of the final goggle before Christmas. They're hoping they're hoping to confirm all the orders and get everything handled and everything by the end of November. And then retailers will be listing them and stuff. And then final goggle delivery before Christmas. That's the goal.
Yeah. Skydrone views, you will not be able to put analog on the Walksnail goggles. They have no external inputs or expandability whatsoever. I mean, theoretically, they could release a new board for the internals that does something like that, but currently they are only compatible with their own system. Even DJI beats them at that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real question, Blunty, I know this isn't on our outline. The real question, Blunty, is, are the people who are spending $460 whatever to get the DJI goggles, the V2 goggles today, how long until that becomes a bad decision because the availability of that hardware becomes limited? No one knows.
$429. It's just so cheap. But yeah, it's I think that there's so much hardware. I think we said this before, but there's so much hardware out there. Like, I don't think it's a problem.
Can I show you
And
something?
also,
Go ahead, keep talking.
sure. Yeah. The other thing is that, you know, we'll talk about it in a couple stories from now, but there's a new 120 FPS camera coming like later. You know what I mean? There's still development happening through RunCam, who is the partner officially. So
Yeah. Do you remember like a year plus ago, there was the shortage of Caddx Vistas? We were going to have like a 3-4 month shortage. And I said, stock up. And I went and I bought like 6 or 8 Caddx Vistas. This is how many I still have unboxed, unopened. Actually, I think I opened one of them to take the antenna out because I needed a spare antenna. I literally just don't kill them. I just don't kill them. I haven't bought a Caddx Vista in over a year because I bought a shitload of them before, but it just don't go through them. And so if you do buy those goggles, like chances are there's going to be a shitload of used stuff out there, even if DJI does stop making it. I don't know. Freaking thrift store Vistas.
I think it's going to be a long time before it's a problem, like years before it's a problem. I really do. Like, even if they cut them off tomorrow, like, I don't know. There's going to be a ton out there, and there's tons of used, and tons of people have stock, and like, I have more than I use. I have extras too. Like, I didn't even mean to buy extras, but like, I bought one for a build I didn't do, and there's just so many of them out there. So I don't think it'll be a major concern for people who are interested in getting in today. You'll get plenty of time, plenty of experience, and plenty of quads out of it. So.
Anyway, okay. Should I open these all up and upgrade the firmware? Am I going to get locked? Is DJI going to lock me out of these at some point? They wouldn't do that.
So far, we have not seen an update for the firmware since, you know,
No. I mean, if I literally, will they just stop being accessible in the assistant at all, and I'll be stuck on whatever firmware they're at?
Somebody can correct me, but I think you could still use the old assistant for Lightbridge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Like, they put out an update for Lightbridge in 2019, and like the last real update was like 2015. So I think you'll always be able to get it in the assistant.
Okay, good.
All right.
Alrighty, let's move on. Enough shooting the shit. We got to be serious about the news.
Oh my God, it's the news. We're already 30 minutes in, and we've done 2 PSAs and one story.
Fine. It's going to be fine. That was a very important story. Never let it be said that we don't give HDZero its due.
That's true. Very true.